Hello. Um, if you can hear me, can I actually get a thumbs up from you? You are all welcome. Um, I'm very grateful for this moment. My guests are trying to join in. Then we can start. Today's conversation is on AI. I know we are all using AI one way or the other, but the issue still I want us to discuss today is what exactly is AI and how does it actually benefit us? What is African stake on AI? Are we just consumers or we are also producers? Do we have ethics, AI ethics? Why is everyone running into AI? Is AI the new game changer? Are Africans making good use of AI? And what is the way forward? Until Chat GPT came, a lot of people don't know that AI has been in existence for quite some time now. Now we have AI that is used to promote peace. AI is used as a political tool. AI is used as a welfare. AI is also used in diverse ways. If you are using any type of AI, can you share your thoughts in the comment section? We are still waiting for our guests to join us. Yes, Kennedy, if you are using any type of AI, can you share your thoughts? What kind of AI do you use? HR's human resource managers are also using AI now. In fact, for recruitment. So when you submit application, AI actually sort out the best. And when you go into gender, you realize that there are some biases even in AI because AI is just regurgitating the data that has been logged in. Okay, someone said he can't hear me. If you can hear me, kindly give me a thumbs up. Hello, can you all hear me? Hello. Okay. Ken say, I am Ken, an AI digital marketer. I help e-commerce, digital marketing and tech businesses scale revenue by 30 plus percent with AI chatbots and automation tools. I'm happy to connect. Good. Ken, I'm very happy you've joined the conversation and we are going to learn a lot from you today. And I know you will have some gigs at the end of the day. I'm still trying to chat our guests to join. So aside Kennedy, who else is using AI? Hello, I am using the back studio, so I cannot see your names. If you unless you chat, I can't see your names. Hello. Okay, David Funk, are you using AI? Okay, sort of. Still trying to get our guests to join us. Hello. Who else is using an AI? All right. Um, I think Tolu is saying she cannot see us. Oh, really? Vanessa, you have to request to enter. Tolu, you have to request to enter so that I can make you a speaker. Vanessa, Tolu, okay. Oh, you are all here. Oh, really? Can you see anything on your because you're already a speaker, so that I can just make you a speaker. You just request to enter the room, then I'll make you a speaker. Okay, Vanessa and Tolu, I am sending you a WhatsApp message. Kindly check your WhatsApp. Vanessa, Miss Tolu, Naomi. I don't know whether Naomi is also here. Oh, really? I wasn't aware you guys were in the room already. Please kindly check your WhatsApp messages to see whether you can join. Okay, I've seen Tolu. Good. Hi.
Hello, can you
Okay.
hear me?
Yes, I'm so
Okay.
sorry. I was still here waiting for you, ladies. I didn't know you were even already hooked onto it. Okay,
Yeah,
I can see
I did
Vanessa
get
now.
this
Good.
link. Hi everyone.
Hi, everyone. I can see Vanessa. Left with Naomi. Naomi is also trying to join.
We just need to prepare to use the backend link that you just shared. Because when you use
Yeah.
the app one, then we're just like
Please, can you
guessing.
all try your sound to see whether you can hear us? Can you hear me? Vanessa, can you hear me?
Yes, I I can can. hear you. Can
Okay,
you?
Tolu, you can hear me. Okay.
Yeah.
As we are waiting for Naomi, I think we can start. Good evening, our listeners. We are very grateful this evening. Is it's an honor for you to join us, and it's going to be a very good discussion today. I chanced on a post by Professor Elsie Kafma. We all know Ghana's a engineer, the National Maths and Science Quiz, and she was sharing thoughts on AI. So AI has been with us for a very long time until ChatGPT came. Today, I am hosting three distinct women. Someone sent me a text to ask me whether we were coming to discuss women in AI. And I said no. So, Naomi, she's from Kenya. She's an AI expert and a researcher. Yes, I think she's also here now. Good. Naomi, you're welcome. Okay, Naomi's camera is off. Tolu Vanessa. Someone else is off now.
Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
okay, you are welcome. So someone wanted to know whether we're hosting women in AI, and I said no. This one is just a general discussion. So and I have Vanessa, I have Tolu, Toluwanimi. I tried pronouncing this more than 10 times before the show started. I hope I've pronounced it well. She's a CRM
It's fine.
manager at Cozy. She's from Nigeria. Then I also have Vanessa here. She is a lawyer, and she works at Greeks, 8 Greeks. Yes.
Geeks.
Okay. Forgive me. Okay, so we would like to start. Before ChatGPT came, what have we been doing with AI for all this while? But before you start, I would like you ladies to introduce yourself, starting from the first person I can see here is Tolu. Can you introduce yourself, what you do, and your area of expertise?
Hi, hello everybody. My name is Tolu. My full name is Tolu Animi Kunle Agape. Um, I am Nigerian, of course. I am into digital marketing, email management, and CRM management. And I've been doing it for a little bit over 5 years. I'm also a creative, so I do photography as well. So I do that on the side, just when I have some extra time on my hands. Yeah, really excited to be here. Very nice to meet everybody here. Nice to see women in tech.
Okay, since you say you do creative, I have a story to share with you concerning AI photography. I'll come back to that. Okay, Vanessa, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I hope you can all hear me. My name is Vanessa Akwete. I am an associate at Ace Geeks at Law. Ace Geeks is a technology and innovation law firm based in Accra, Ghana, but working globally. So, what we do is we specialize in providing legal and advisory services to anyone in the tech space. There's a misconception that we only work with tech companies, but that's not the fact. Anyone in the tech space, whether you're a tech company, if you're an investor investing in tech, if you're an incubator, a VC, a PE firm, even with regulators and policymakers, we are here to advise you and help you with any legal assistance you need in the tech space. Our portfolio includes companies like Uber, Mest, Smile ID, Sportybet, AutoCheck, Village Capital, Paystack, Insano, a lot of the heavy players in the tech space, but not just in Ghana, internationally as well. We have three practice groups: our corporate and commercial group, our licensing and regulatory practice group, and then our intellectual property practice group. But aside that, we also have what we call desks. I like to describe them as more of like mini practice groups. So for our desks, they are in areas where there's not necessarily a lot of work happening just yet because it's maybe in a field of emerging technology, but we can anticipate that it's a growing field, an area that people will have a lot of questions and queries in the coming years, maybe. So we have an AI desk, which I happen to head at 8 We have our blockchain and cryptocurrency desk, and we have our digital health desk. So for anyone who's looking for legal advice in any of those spaces, give us
You would tell us the ethics we need to actually look at when we are using AI.
a happy to.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, Naomi, we are in Kenya today. Can you introduce
Yes, so
yourself?
yes, it's my name is Naomi. It's 8 p.m. here, so it's at night. The lighting may be a bit difficult for me to balance, but I'm in academia. I'm a researcher and a scholar doing the intersections between AI, peace, and conflict and security, purely on African context. Um, Currently a lecturer at one of the universities here in Nairobi, and of course a founder at AI for Peace Africa, where we do research, where we build models. We have not started yet, but soon get into that, and build capacity just to make sure that the conversation of AI around peace, tech, smart peace, digital peace, however you choose to call it, is on the table. Basically, that's what I do. Yeah.
That's nice to hear. First time hearing the word smart piece, digital piece. Okay. So starting from you, from your perspective as an AI researcher, what are some of the biggest challenges preventing Africa from fully harnessing AI?
Uh, I think when you talk about challenges here, we may be a bit subjective based on the
Mm-hmm.
area someone is coming from. So, because if someone is from tech, from fintech, they would say, okay, it's more of a fintech. That will be the challenge. But looking at it from a very overall angle, I would say some of the challenges that we have as Africans in a way that we utilize AI for development and other issues. One is that we are used to being receivers. We are
Mm-hmm.
used to just getting something someone has made for us and just riding on it and using it. We have not had a mindset, even historically, a mindset for building, which I am a very big campaigner on social media platforms, where Africans can be able to bring their mind into building. Not that every African is not having that mindset. It's not an overall mindset. The way we know we are black, we have a dark skin, it's not obvious that we should build models in AI or build tech solutions for ourselves in every area. Though in different countries, Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt, Kenya, and a few others, have been able to have a few cases that they've been able to use AI for themselves. I feel that that is a very subjective perspective that we are not builders. It's a big challenge that we are not looking at AI intrinsically. We are looking at it in extrinsically, that someone else is coming with it. It's a new thing. And again, when you look at big platforms and regional stakeholders in Africa, like AU and others, you realize we've been doing quite a big research around that. You realize that it's a very big problem even to onboard uh, members, presidents, and other big stakeholders in Africa to support aspects to do with technology and AI into development, into security, into peace. Just buying that mind, because others will believe, oh, this is not a big thing. We have hunger, we have other things that we are tackling, so this is not quite big. But I would say that AI is not just big; it's just what you need at this moment to start thinking about. Because if we delay as Africans, we always delay when things come forth. I was giving an example of the way the churches onboarded Facebook and social media during COVID. Yet people are no, even if you worked in social media and other things in a church setup or religious setup, you'd be asked, what do you keep doing? But now COVID forced even religious institutions like those that thought social media is bad to onboard by force and to use it. So I wish that we will not be caught up to that season that we will on board by force AI and use tech by force as Africans. And if we use it by force, we will have to use someone else in the meantime. It will be a long time for us to build solutions for ourselves in healthcare, in education, in development, in peace and security, and so forth. So it's the mindset of Africans that we need to change. I'm part of that. We need to change and start being builders, looking at solutions, creating our own solutions, engaging in this conversation. Hey, everyone, let's build our own thing. Let's start learning. Let's build our own thing. I think that's the biggest challenge when it comes to African setup.
Do you think that it's because of we don't have the capacity, or aside the capacity, maybe our educational systems too does
Yes.
not actually focus on making us become a little bit more innovative, trying to solve problems than receivers?
Yes. Of course, that's also a big area when it comes to education and exposure. Education and exposure is pertinent uh, to the umbrella perception of leadership of Africa, because for instance, I work in an academic institution, and one of the key things that I have experienced as a person and as a researcher and a scholar in this particular area is that uh, people are not onboarding, or leaderships do not onboard. So even if uh, Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, uh, Senegal, all African countries want to onboard this, it has to come. It's like it has, African systems. It has to be top bottom kind of flow, because if you are very politically engineered country like Kenya, where you
So
just
it
decide,
means
okay,
maybe the policy makers have not actually grabbed the concept yet.
yes, the policies cannot be made where people do not understand. Policies cannot be created where leadership does not understand the actual intensity and the importance of AI in the African setups. And even so, the AI that fits African kind of context. So even if it's education, we may want to say, okay, let's adopt AI into education. But what AI are we adopting? It's not AI that we have made. So most of the time, you will find that it's most of it is not fitting
Yeah,
into the context of Africans.
Africa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So Tolu, you actually use CRM, customer relationship management, AI. When you look at African businesses in general, do you think that it's something that we actually need, or is we are just using it because we want to import into it?
So first of all, I don't think that we're just using it just to get into the idea of what AI is, or because everybody else is using it. I think that one of the major issues that we have as Africans is our ability to embrace something new, something different. We're very used to our own ways of doing things. We're very used to, oh, our ancestors did it a certain way. So obviously, we should be doing it this particular way. If we're changing anything, if anything looks different, it is automatically fought against. And I understand that change is different, but understandably, some change can be good. And I think that's the perspective we need to see from. So for African businesses, do they need to adopt AI? Yes. And they need to stop fighting it, because the more they fight the development of artificial intelligence tools, the harder it is going to be to actually catch up with competitors outside of Africa. So what am I saying? Let's say for example, I have a brand that I'm working with, which is Cozy. It's a Nigerian laundry
Your
brand,
sound
right?
is
If
your
I want
sound is
to,
going down.
oh,
Yeah,
sorry, give me a second. Hold on. Um, how is it now?
yeah, a, a
Okay.
bit better.
So,
Yes.
all right, basically, if I want to, I have a laundry brand I work with, right? If I want to be able to compete on a global scale with other laundry brands, then I need to be able to match what these people are bringing to
Okay.
the table with what I'm producing. So if I'm now, let's say for example, hypothetically speaking, I'm sitting at a table with other people, someone from Ghana and me that is from Nigeria, and I'm sitting with someone else across the table. He's from New York and another person in London. Um, the gap between where the African businesses are and where the international or more global businesses are is quite large. And I think AI can actually bridge that gap so fast, because there are a lot of things, minute details that we tend to overlook. For example, personalization, working with AI chatbots, multilingual AI, data privacy, ethics, things like that, that can easily be integrated into
automated systems. Like you don't have to be the one to manually go and write it in there by yourself. For example, you have 100,000 emails to send out. You don't have to write everybody's email. You don't have to write everybody's name one after the other. You don't have to think, oh, this person opened their shopping cart, but they didn't come back to it. How can I use AI to bridge that gap? Instead of looking for the person by yourself, you have set up certain automation systems or automated systems that will do the job for you. And all you have to do is monitor and evaluate and build from there. And I think that the mistake that we are making as African businesses, I genuinely believe that a lot of people are getting past that now, and we're starting to slowly close and slowly bridge that gap. But I believe that the major mistake that we're making as African businesses is the we're fighting AI. Meanwhile, we should be embracing it and try it. AI is not the enemy. AI is, I mean, for now, is not the enemy until it takes over the world. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But
No
yes,
problem.
if you embrace AI, it augments your processes. I saw something someone wrote on LinkedIn a few days ago. The person said that if AI can take your job, if you doing if the job you're doing right now, someone can just automate a system and take your job away, then you need to reevaluate your entire career, because obviously the world is growing so fast, the world is developing so fast that you actually need to realize that if you're not growing with it, you're going to be left behind and you'll be stuck in your own ways, and that's the mistake we need to try not to make. So do I think that AI is going to transform African businesses and put it par with at par with like global businesses? Absolutely. We have the creativity, we have the talent. Look at the brands that are outside in, for example, I live in London. If I walk into a global brand right now, like if I walk into an office, there's a very high possibility I will see my brothers and my sisters there. I would see other black people doing huge things. I have friends doing big things in different sectors right now, and I know the amount of impacts that they're making. So my point is, it is not the lack of talent, it's not the lack of skill, it is the ability to embrace that change and actually use that to make a difference. I think that's what the issue is.
You think we are actually running after it, or
I, I
we are lacking behind?
Yes, I think we're lagging behind. I think because of the fact that we're fighting it, it is harder to embrace it and see the good it could actually bring. So it's very easy for you to, if you want to look at the negative parts of AI, you will find it. Meanwhile, if you want to look at the positive parts, you will definitely find it. And it has the possibility of taking, it has the possibility of taking businesses to the absolute next level, because you would now focus less on the mundane tasks and focus more on things that actually matter. So instead of saying, oh, I've been busy for 10 hours sending emails to this person, that person, this person, that person, you're actually doing something that makes a difference. Do you understand what I mean? So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I think.
What kind of trends should we look out for in the next 5 years?
Um, like I think I mentioned one before. I talked about chatbots. So, for example, with like customer service management, um, if you have chatbots that are active 24/7, meaning that means that even if you are not awake, even if your customer is in a different time zone, the chatbot is available to respond to them. So you're gathering FAQs, setting up these things so that depending on the questions that they ask, they are able to get responses. And if they don't have responses, at least you're able to say that, okay, um, within the time frame when they need something, I'm able to provide valuable information until I'm available to actually now respond to these things. Do you understand? And so I feel like for conversational AI and chatbots, those are things to definitely look out for. I also think personalization in terms of um, in terms of not just emails, because I'm a big email person, I'm a CRM person. So not just emails. I'm thinking social. I'm talking social media. I'm talking um,
Okay.
e-commerce. So basically websites and things like that. Running ads. You're doing personalized ads based on the person's internet history. This is why I think that ethics lawyers also need to tighten their belts, because there are a lot of gaps in those places, and it's something that definitely needs to be watched out for. Um, that basically leads me into like data privacy and AI regulation and stuff. I think businesses will have to balance the adoption of AI with data privacy laws and data protection, because
Mm-hmm.
also data is important, data is sensitive, so you don't want to expose people to what could harm them, and you don't want people's data just flying out there and they're saying, oh, how did you get my data, why do you have access to it, I never signed anything like this. And just for the record, those terms and conditions that you just agree to,
Without reading.
those things, redefine prints. Redefine prints, because there's a lot of things that we agree to without actually
Mm.
realizing. But of course, it helps businesses in the long term because they know that at least they can personalize, like I said, personalized ads, personalized content, emails, things like that, to actually reach the people that they know need those things, or predict that
Mm-hmm.
based on where this person is right now, by next week, the person will be looking for this. So I'm going to start sending out ads to this person's phone. That's why I can be talking to somebody right now. I can be talking to you about, oh, I saw these new shoes I really like, this and that and this and that. And then the next day you're scrolling on your Instagram and the brand somehow just pops up with that same shoe that you liked.
Yeah.
Or they pop up with different shoe ads, giving you different options. So it's not as if you told your phone that, oh, please help me find. There is already that personalization that has been created based on the fact that your phone listens to you and you've signed some of your privacy away in those terms and conditions. So like I said, this is where ethics lawyers definitely need to tighten up their belts. It's something that needs to be addressed in Africa, and I think that it should be taken very seriously because we can be very trivial about things like this, especially in Africa. So
I
yes,
will
that's
come back to you because some of us we are saying that Facebook have been listening to our conversations. Social media have been listening to our conversation. That's why you are thinking of buying shoes. Then by the time you realize you are seeing all shoes ads on your feed. So we'll come back to that. Okay, now Vanessa, you are a lawyer more into law. Do we actually even have legal standards concerning AI in Africa? Has any country embraced AI first to the extent now to making sure that they are ensuring their legal framework protecting us?
Okay, so generally, have we embraced AI? I think everybody in the world has, even if you didn't make like an attempt to embrace it. If you don't go to it, it will come to you. And I think I need to premise this discussion by saying that everywhere in the world right now, AI frameworks are being developed. So it's a work in process. Like you mentioned earlier, Shalom, there was a big boom with the coming out of ChatGPT, the release of ChatGPT. So AI has been around for ages. Things like your Siri, your Google Maps, your autocorrect when you type, all of those are actually artificial intelligence that have been around for ages and ages. But when ChatGPT came out, there was more of a boom in generative AI. And that's the sort of AI that creates new material. So you give it one thing and it gives you something that didn't exist before, right? So there was an advent of a new type of, or a boom in a new type of AI. And that's what has sort of triggered a lot more concerns that people want to address. But historically, that's just how things go. Like there will be something new and events that we've never experienced before. Maybe some issues will arise, and then the law will have to catch up or adjust or adapt to address those issues. So this is perfectly normal. But on the question of frameworks, like I said, it's all in progress right now, but you can sort of see two main approaches coming out right now. So I like to call them the soft approach and the hard approach. So the hard approach is like by the book, letter of the law regulations, like the laws you have, like your Data Protection Act, your EU AI Act, to be more specific in this case. So that's where you have actual regulation in place that spells out what you should do, what happens if you don't, penalties, etc., etc. And then you have more of a soft approach, which is what we are seeing more in AI, especially in Africa. So that's where you have people putting out like guidelines, frameworks, national strategies, white papers. And what these things do, they are not necessarily laws, but they tell you, they give you guidance, they give you like a soft push on what you should be doing. And that's our process right now because really and truly, we don't know what works for AI. The moment you think something works, there's a new system that's doing something completely different and you have to adjust. So a lot of countries are taking this soft approach. When it comes to Africa on the continental level, you see that the African Union has put out a continental artificial intelligence strategy. Countries like South Africa have a national policy framework for AI. Kenya, Zambia, Mauritius, Ghana, Rwanda. Everybody has this softer approach of putting out a framework for like guidelines, so a softer approach. And one thing you will see when you sort of look across these frameworks and policies is that they have some common traits, right? So, first thing is they're all encouraging capacity building for us to develop, not just be consumers. A point that you raise, we don't want to be on the end where we are just accepting the tools that have been developed. So, there's a lot of effort on developing local talent for AI, education and training, building your local capacity, research, building your digital infrastructure, encouraging investments in AI. Most of these frameworks and strategies for all the countries have incorporated that. Another thing you see is the ethics, which is one of the most important topics when we come to AI. So in all the framework strategies, you will as well see they've put certain thresholds in place that I wouldn't call them laws because there's no punishment attached right now, like do this or it's that. But they encourage people like make sure your AI system is transparent, accountable, and fair. You see that's almost in every strategy, even not just in Africa, but even in foreign countries. So what that means is transparency. Let's take that. Make sure that people know what your system does and what is happening with their information, right? If we come to you, you want to know what type of information you've used to train your system. It shouldn't be a situation where we don't know where our information has gone, what is being used for. Be very transparent with everything you do with your AI system. Another one is accountability, right? So you want to know who is responsible when something goes wrong. So internally, you have to make sure your processes are laid out in such a way that we know who to hold accountable or who is responsible if anything goes wrong, right? And then the third thing there is fairness, and that's basically where the biases and diversity comes in. A lot of the systems we use right now are being passed down to us by, they've been trained in the US, Amazon, Meta, all the big data players, all the big boys in the game, OpenAI, and they just sort of give us these models that don't truly reflect our truth. So you tend to have biases in the results that these systems produce, right? So they can't account for our special needs as Africans. So that's another thing that people have realized and are trying to solve for. Make sure your training data, which is the information you give to the system for it to learn and give you answers, make sure that is diverse enough. So you have a wide enough group. You have Africans who have used their data to train so that the system isn't like treating us differently in terms of skin color, race, classes, all those things, and just be inclusive. And then you also see like a general call to be very responsible with AI. So responsible use, make sure that your system can't be used in a way that will harm um, the public. So make sure that your system is taking the public interest into account. So one more thing that you see running across, there are a couple of things that are pretty common, but for the sake of the discussion, the last thing I'll touch on is that most of them will also say later on down the line, we are developing a more specific regulatory framework. So again, it's very hard to regulate because it's so fast moving. But all the countries that I've mentioned, every country in the world does realize that you need to put certain safeguards in place. So most of them will say, maybe let's put in place a supervisory body. So like in Zambia, they have called for, what's the name? A National AI Council, if I remember correctly. And then in Ghana, we've proposed having a responsible AI office. So these are just bodies and supervisory authorities that we are planning to put in place to guide the way that AI is used. And then, of course, make sure your data governance is robust and ensure that there's privacy and security Those are some of the things and the trends that you will see in these AI strategies. So the regulation, to speak, is still unfolding. Even when you have like hard cuts regulation like the EU AI Act, we are not so sure how that will play out. The EU AI Act is still being rolled out. There are certain sections that are still yet to come into force. In February, a big chunk of it just became active, and then another part of it is now going to become active in August 2025. So we haven't yet applied this to be absolutely sure that this is the legal framework that will work. So again, we are taking the soft approach. And in addition to that, what you see is that we are using existing laws, like laws for data in data privacy infringements, IP laws, data protection, cybersecurity, those existing laws already in place. We are using that to cater to the issues that pop up in AI until we have more clear AI specific regulation.
Don't you think that all these regulations is just pushing the responsibility to us, the users? So that,
Not
it's like we told you not to do this when you do it, and
um,
the consequences, it's your problem. Don't you think that's how I'm actually looking at it?
no, actually, when you look at this, most of the time they put a chunk on the responsibility on the developers of the AI system, who the coders, the people who build the system, and then they put a lot of responsibility on the people who distribute or deploy it. Right? I can't say. I don't think any government is out there punishing citizens for their use of AI. Definitely read the terms and conditions like Tolu mentioned and look out for yourself. But when it comes from a regulatory standpoint, they are not looking to regulate the ordinary citizen. They are looking to make sure that the people
Mhm.
supplying you with this system are protecting your interests. So I don't think on that basis you have anything to worry about.
Okay. Okay. So, sorry, those of you just join us. We are discussing AI, the rise of AI in Africa. Some of us, when we are talking about AI, we only know about ChatGPT, but there are a lot of things that AI does. Even AI is now used as a to recruit, and I read an article where it says that if the data has been imputed with biased, it means that that's the same thing that is going to regurgitate. So if a company, maybe an organization called Rose, is a recruitment organization, and they are always recruiting men with some qualities. Anytime you put in a female application, AI will automatically just reject the application because the data inputted is biased. Do you think that we are actually working towards it to make sure that biases, inclusiveness, and also racism, uh, um, color, or your country, where you are coming from, even your accent, AI is able to work on that, so that it's not the same problems that we have been facing all these years that we are actually chasing again when it comes to AI? Which of you will take that question?
Yeah, I think I touched on it quite briefly in my answer, but that is something that regulations are looking to do, right? People don't realize that they have certain biases, right? And until you test the system, you don't realize that certain ways you think have been like imprinted on the system and it's going that way. So now the law is asking you, right, to be very mindful of that. Like we are putting in place these guidelines to prompt people to think of that so that they can be more inclusive in their training, right? So give it more diverse data. Don't just pick data from one place and
Mm-hmm.
use that only, because then it's going to learn only those trends that it picks up from that set of data. I don't know if anybody else has anything to add, but essentially on the legal side, it is something that on a broad basis is being considered all around the world to add that into legislations, frameworks, and ensure that systems are not biased.
All right. Yeah. So, do you have something to add?
Yes, I actually do want to say something. Sorry, can you hear me well?
Yes.
All right. I do want to say that I saw someone make a comment in the chat box, and I realized that it's actually quite important. I think that um, companies actually need to be held accountable because it is your responsibility to handle the data that you've been given and actually sort through and make sure that you're being unbiased. I live in a city, or should I say, a country. I live in London, um, and one of the major questions at the moment, one of the major statements at the moment is DEI. So, diversity, equality, inclusion,
Mm, yeah.
and if you are, if right now in 2025 you are a company with some amount of data and it is still biased towards a certain or biased towards a certain race. So you're telling me I can't handle the job just because of the color of my skin, or you're telling me that the reason why you're suggesting this thing to me is because, oh, maybe I have a certain accent, right? All of these biases, they're things that need to be they need to be sorted through in terms of like the data and all of that. And I feel that, and I genuinely am convinced that I think more companies need to be held responsible for
Responsible.
that particular, yes. So it is your job as a, for example, maybe an um, the way you would tell a legal person that, oh, it's your job to make sure that people are abiding by, you know, every ethical law possible, even with all of this AI transformation and all of that. I would say it is your job as maybe a data analyst to make sure that um, it's your job as a data analyst to make sure that your data is unbiased. You're constantly going through it, making sure it's clean data, making sure that the things that are being imputed and what is going out as like input and output is being sorted through. You have a system that actually works such that if I have, for example, if I have a sister that is white, maybe she's American, all of that, she should not have a greater advantage just because she's American,
Yeah.
right? And I think you also mentioned how that HR uses AI for hiring, and just automatically, I would give the example of being a Nigerian here. Being a Nigerian here, I don't have permanent residency yet. So that automatically means that they would ask you, do you need sponsorship to work in this country? And usually the answer is yes. So if you say yes, the tendency or the possibility of you getting hired just probably went from 100% to 0
Yeah.
because of the fact that, yes, I understand that there are resource constraints or whatever, but there's also the fact that you are automatically, like, the data is just biased, like it has been created that way, such that you can't um, you can't be hired just because you require sponsorship. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so, even though it is the company's preference, I'm using that as an example because that is the kind of restriction you can get as someone that is not from a certain place. So, if you have that at the back of your mind, knowing that, oh, this is, um, if you have that at the back of your mind, knowing that, oh, this is like a certain constraint and you know how that feels, then obviously you should understand um, how it would feel if you're being judged just based on data that you impute as an African or a Nigerian, and then you're being suggested certain things based on that. Does that make sense? Sorry, I think I got in my head a little bit there, but yes.
Yes, but we're enjoying it. Naomi, you are a researcher. How do you think we can leverage AI to address Africans' problems like job, socioeconomic issue? Because we know some problems that are peculiar to just Africans.
One of the ways that I think will be the first thing to do will be to advocate and to include inclusivity when it comes to AI, just the same thing we're talking about, bias and so forth, but now inclusion in terms of data sets, in terms of cultural items and objects into the data among the builders, but also the bigger thing I would go for and I would advocate for will be decolonization of AI. Decolonization of AI. So, yes, we are consumers, but if we could campaign, if we could dialogue, if we could negotiate for a more, even if we are building our own, but even as consumers, we can sit on the table and say that we need one that fits our context, and that will be a way of quote unquote decolonizing what we are consuming, meaning it's not we're not moving towards an imperialistic kind of era uh, where we'll just move to a new era of new colonialism when it comes to AI. So for me, I advocate, and because I know it will take time. Well, let's talk because when you look at even the funding, at the money that comes to investment when it comes to AI in Africa, in every sector, and also the data that is used 20%. And when you look at the data and the percentages, the figures are way far. So it will take time. So between that time and the actualization of what we really want, I would advocate, or I would say that Africa needs to move to the table and discuss decolonization, because what we consume, I had quite a problem with some AI generating image generating AI platforms, and for a long time, I could not get a black, when I ask a black African context, I will just get a map. I actually will not get a black person. And a senior person came from UK from that company to our institution just to do a training. And I was really hard on the person in terms of this is not decolonized AI. So uh, one of the things is that it will not help us. If it is not working for us, it will not help us. We will not make money. We will not make peace. We will not develop. We will not grow. We'll just consume what everyone else thinks, but not what we think. That's my advocacy. Decolonizing AI. In the time being, as we onboard as builders, we decolonize and we make it inclusive in terms of data sets that factor our context, our cultures, our languages, how we feel, our emotions, how we handle issues. For instance, I like using examples, you forgive me. For instance, we asked AI to, when this senior guy from this big company, I'll not mention it, it's well known, came. So we asked AI, this particular AI, to give a punishment for a child that was a teen and had done a few things that were out of the norm. And what the AI said was, okay, shut out the TV, you'll be grounded and so forth. That's not an African context kind of punishment. One is that you're taken to your grandma's if you're in the city, you stay up country, you take some goats to the forest, or something that looks like that. So then it means this particular thing replicates in every aspect of where we utilize AI. Apart from now the normal things, the general things like maybe mind mapping AIs and so forth. But even in research, the data that is fed there, even the authors and scholars, we are having very big debates. Who are the scholars that are on board when we're doing research? Will African researchers' data or research work be, is it available in these platforms? So we have to have a conversation of decolonization. That
Yeah.
is in fact, yeah.
Yeah, I think I was also reading an article where you see how we use Snapchats even after taking pictures to brighten the color of blacks,
Yes,
make it more appealing, because that is what we accept as the either most beautiful or something. So the developing of this kind of AI tool when it comes to beauty is also another thing. So, like you said, decolonization of AI is very, very important so that it can be in an African context. Now, Tolu, you are actually into creative. In 2023, um, there was this image photography award. Then one guy, Boris, won the award. But when the day comes for him to come for the award, then he turned it down that his picture was actually AI generated. So and now we can actually see that most of the pictures you even see on LinkedIn, you realize that they are not original photos, just AI generated with someone's facial pictures on it. Are we heading towards doom, or we actually on the right path? Like the way we are using these AI stuffs.
So first of all, I would say that I understand why the Boris guy turned down the award.
Mm,
I mean, AI is supposed to augment, not do your entire job. Which is why I
mhm,
mentioned earlier that if AI is doing your job completely, then you need to rethink your entire career path, or think about how you can build your skills and all of that. But I think that just the way it is with any new developments, there can be extremities,
mm,
and I think in I'm not entirely sure how that could be done, but I think in finding ways to regulate how people use it. But the thing is, people are still people, and people would still go to the extreme. Like I literally have encountered people that would just test the limits of AI just because. And it's understandable. You want to see how far it can go. It's
mm.
your the curiosity is there. Everybody wants to see how far they can take it. But like I said, once again, I'm going to keep saying this. It feels like I'm saying the same thing, but I'm going to keep saying this. AI is literally there to augment, not take over. That's what I believe. I believe that's the best way to use AI, especially because one of the major things that you can communicate as a human being is empathy,
Yep.
right? As much as AI can be creative and try to be empathetic. I mean, to be honest, it's developing very quickly. We're training AI data models and we're getting more empathetic AI. ChatGPT is not as robotic as it used to be. I mean, you are
Yeah.
seeing people typing in, oh, sound like a human being when you type my essay for my school. That kind of thing. You're seeing, you're seeing people do that. And to be honest, it's actually evolving and becoming, it's becoming exactly that, becoming more empathetic. But I still don't think that that human factor can be taken away from people. So as much as there are the dangers of like, okay, yes, um, AI is heading this way, there are the extremities, all of that. I genuinely think that AI cannot take over what actually makes us human. Like it can't take away our humanity. So that's exactly why you won't. That's exactly why I'm convinced that AI is not going to take over the world, because there are so many things that it cannot replace. I mean, maybe it will eventually, but in the meantime, just be convinced and live in my very small bubble and just enjoy. But yes, I really think that the humanity, the
Mhm,
empathy, and then even the creativity, right,
mhm,
cannot be taken away from humans, because creativity comes from yes, creativity comes from us, right? But for AI learns, and it learns from us. It learns to be creative from human beings. So it doesn't necessarily, I mean, so far from what I've seen, I've not seen that it is able to develop something original that
mhm.
has not been picked up from different maybe data sets here and there, here and there, here and there, and then put together. But then again, creativity as humans is stealing other people's ideas with a different perspective. So that's my own. That's what I really think. I don't think you can take away the empathy, the human factor, and the creativity. Genuinely.
Yeah, if you are following us, you don't want AI to take your job, then just enter into academia and become a philosopher. AI cannot
They
take
might
a
actually
philosopher.
have they might actually have robots to teach philosophy. You never know. Maybe very
Anyway,
soon.
probably. Okay, so Tolu, Do you think we have anything blocking Africans from using AI in business? What are some of the barriers?
Yes and no.
Hmm.
Yes and no. No, because I mean, we the internet opens us up to everything now.
Yeah.
The reason why we can see the availability of AI is because there's the internet and we're able to keep track of things going on in more developed countries, right?
Mm.
And so we're able to catch up. People are bringing it to Africa, they bring it to Nigeria, Ghana, Zambia, Kenya. Um, but I also think that a lot of businesses that maybe not established or like has have grown to a point where they have so much disposable, I'm not going to
Mm.
call it disposable income, but like income to an extent where they're able to, invest properly into AI tools and software and stuff like that. It can be costly. um, it can be costly in terms of like infrastructure and all of that. And I think that a lot of businesses will still struggle with like the expensive AI tools. I do believe that tech companies have managed to find like a midpoint for more affordable tools and their alternatives. For example, if you wanted to use ChatGPT now, everybody knows ChatGPT or maybe Claude, but if you wanted to use ChatGPT for yourself, if you're working as a sole entrepreneur or something, you just have to maybe pay $20 a month, right? Technically, $20 per month for maybe someone living in, let's say, New York, it does not seem like too much money, right? But for $20 for someone with um, living in somewhere like Nigeria, that translates to about 35 to 30 something thousand naira. And technically, if I'm not making a good amount of money from my business yet, I don't think I want to invest it something thousand naira into this AI tool just yet, even though I know it's going to help. So that could be a barrier, right? I think also data limitations could also be a problem. I would speak personally for Nigeria. The availability of data in more, for example, developed countries compared to in Nigeria, we don't have a lot of data. We have so like we don't have um how do I explain this? We don't we've not taken the time to, maybe this boils down to researchers. Hi Naomi. um
We don't take. I don't.
we
We don't take data
no
seriously. That's it.
we we take
Yes.
data kind of, but not really. There's still that it's still a huge gap that needs to be filled. We still have so much data that needs to be taken, and I feel like that's a huge limitation because that's what AI should be working with. It should be working with the available data. So including that gap with equality, inclusion, what people want, how people want to be treated, we don't know. Well,
Yeah.
or
We
maybe
don't
let's say
know.
people
Yeah.
that are developing the AI tools, the software, they don't have the data to make those informed decisions just yet. So that could be a limitation, right? Yeah, and to be honest, I think those two majorly. I would say data privacy laws. Vanessa, like you said, some of them are still evolving. People are definitely passing laws now that are making it easier for all these data privacy laws to actually help businesses and all of that. But again, like Naomi said, it's gonna take time. It's the distance between where we are and where we're going. I would definitely say we're going in the right direction, which is amazing. But it is still a limitation for where we are right now as a continent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think those of us watching and joining the discussion, let's start taking data serious. Let's start doing customer research. Most of the businesses in Africa don't even do customer research. So they are serving customers. They don't know what the customers want. They just assume, okay, if they buy one color of item more than the others, it means that's what they want. Probably that is what is available. So we have to start looking critically about data and about research. Most of the countries, when you ask about their research budgets, no one, they can't tell you. We make policies out of political will. We don't make policies even based on research that, okay, this is what Ghana needs. The research shows that children in Ghana needs to eat this food to be brilliant. So no, like politicians wake up and they're like, okay, if we do this, we'll win votes. Then that is how we have been all these years. Okay, Vanessa, let me come to you. What are some of the
Sorry,
risks?
can I? Sorry, I'm so sorry. Can I
Okay,
also say something?
yeah,
I also noticed that a lot of, once again, I'm going to be speaking from Nigeria's perspective.
okay,
A lot of data that we actually do have available are
mhm,
outdated.
okay, yeah,
So I'm writing a paper. I want to write a paper in 2020. Well, let's say if I was writing, I'm going to use a my personal example. When I was writing my dissertation as a bachelor's degree hold person, undergraduate, um, a lot of the data I was finding that were reliable were not from the country; they were from
mm,
outside,
yeah,
right? You see a lot of German papers, US papers, UK papers, Dublin, Ireland, different places, right?
mm,
But you don't see in the country that you're in. So you have to
mm,
make assumptions because you don't have the data available. And so it's not as if there's no data. There's some data, but a
mhm,
lot of them are outdated.
okay,
So and then also with customer feedback, if you're running a business and you're not getting customer feedback, you're creating the business for yourself, not for the people. Because I don't know what you're creating without asking for feedback from your customers. So yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Thank you.
okay. Yeah, Vanessa, we want to talk about the risk associated with AI, and when it comes to maybe individuals or businesses, how or even governments, what are some of the things we have to look out for about risks in AI?
Okay, so some of the AI specific risks that we are starting to see is mostly disinformation, with these deep fakes, blah, 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 We are seeing the threat of surveillance. And then, of course, you're seeing copyright infringements.
Mhm,
And then just this regular data privacy issues that we've been talking about. I'm going to like zero in on data privacy issues in the conversation you and Tolu just had. I wanted to jump in there and say it's not that we don't have the data or that we don't collect the data, it's that we haven't structured it in a way that
mhm,
is beneficial enough. Like you don't have the big data sets. We don't have the clean data
mm,
organized in a way that it can be used for training. And that's a data issue, you know what I mean? And you were talking about papers and everything. And that was actually one of the issues that popped into my mind is that that's the problem. When we collect your data in Ghana, we love paper. We want to give you a form to fill. We don't want to use a system where you just key in your information, it's fed into
mm,
a bigger, more secure location. We love our paper, which opens you up to data breaches, actually, because what happens if the room goes on fire? You lose all that data. And also, it's much harder for you to trace um, if there's been a data breach. Like if somebody walks in, takes a picture of that paper, walks out. It's not like in a system where you can sort of see those logging in, logging out, and keep track. If some information is deleted, you can trace it. So those are some of our unique risks in Africa when it comes to data. I don't want to call them risks. Let me couch it as rooms, things that we
mhm,
can improve on, things where there's a lot of area for improvement. So just the way we organize and store our data can be much more efficient. We need to improve the infrastructure there. And then, of course, another risk or area for improvement, rather, is that
mhm,
our laws need to be a little bit more comprehensive. So, in places like Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, we have data protection legislation, but you'd be shocked, not all the African countries have that even at this stage, right? And data is at the basis of artificial intelligence, right? If you don't have the right data, you can't build an efficient enough system. So we need to really bear that in mind that you need to work at the foundation before you can work at the top,
mm,
essentially. And for those of us that do have these specific data protection laws and data specific legislation, we need to realize that they don't fit perfectly for the unique challenges that artificial intelligence has brought up. Like, yes, we have things about processing, but do we have provisions in our data protection laws about using data to train AI systems? Does that count as further processing? Do you need extra consent? So there are certain nuances that we need to incorporate. Again, I wouldn't call it a risk I just see it as an area of improvement because it can be done better to avoid um, issues in the future. Another thing I would say is cybersecurity, right? Africans don't take that seriously enough. We just sometimes our systems are just open. You walk in, somebody's desktop is just open, like you can just
Yeah.
have the information at any time. People will click on those phishing emails. Oh, you've won $100,000. Click here. You just get a bargain. So those are some of the things that we see. There needs to be a lot more training, education, awareness on those things. You need to even train people to recognize deepfakes, right? When they are
Mm.
used, and just overall education on what AI means and how we can protect ourselves from certain areas and certain risks to just make the transition a little bit easier for all of us.
Yeah. Okay. If you just join us, you can send your questions. Unfortunately, I cannot watch on LinkedIn because if I log into LinkedIn, it means I'm going to be having feedback to it to be transmitting twice. So I can only see you if you try to write the question because I can see some chats here. There's one person said LinkedIn users, I am curious, what dimension should Africans take in innovating when it comes to AI? Are we overregulating when innovation is low? Does it stifle the innovation process?
Well, that's interesting. I think I'll take that one because Lyndon is also one of the people who is a staunch advocate against overregulation. So, what the broader argument is, you need to let the systems run, and then let's finish building them and find out what the issues are, and then we'll come back and solve the problems, right? And of course, there's a risk because people are using these systems, right? You don't want the situations where like you have over manipulative AI. I think there have been cases in the US where like some of the chatbots sound so over realistic that people end up like falling in love and having relationships, and then they tell them to commit suicide, right? So there's extreme circumstances that we want to be able to protect against.
Yeah.
But again, you don't want too much regulation to the point where I am now so afraid that I'll be fined $100 million that I don't even want to get in the space. Like I'm afraid to launch a product. I'm afraid to test this or that because if it goes wrong or if it's categorized as manipulative or this or that, then I have a big case on my head. So that's why I appreciate the softer approach that a lot of the African countries are taking. So it's not putting in place hard barriers like we see under the EU AI Acts, like the reporting obligations for people to come and produce like very detailed reports every year, every quarter on all the information. And that's a huge burden. That's a lot of red tape that small businesses can't bear, especially in Africa. So I do think we have the right approach of let's put the guidelines in place, let people know that these things are important. Like don't make manipulative systems, don't make systems that can be used for disinformation. Let's just follow those fair, equitable guidelines and then build and innovate. Because of course, you don't want a situation where in one and people some people will understand the geopolitical elements that's going on with AI regulation right now because you have the two leaders, you have the US, you have China, and you see that that's why there haven't been strict regulations put in place in those jurisdictions is because they are fighting to be the leading the leading source for AI, like the
Yeah.
leader in technology, the leader in AI. So you don't want a situation where your developers and your deployers are so busy complying with all the regulations you put in place that the other team is like far
Mm.
ahead, like
Yeah.
developers. So there is a real issue with overregulation, but in Africa right now, I don't think that's an issue that we have. I think we are taking the right soft approach of just letting the systems develop, putting soft guidelines in place so that we don't have the big issues.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to add, Tolu or Naomi, concerning the innovation or regulations, whether we are too hard on ourselves?
Uh, no, I don't think we're too hard on ourselves. I think we need a little bit of pressure set sometimes, um, just to push us in the right direction. But I also, to be honest, I think Vanessa said most of it. But that I also think that instead of focusing on these things instead of just being so focused on what the problems are or what the limitations are, we can just do more of what the solutions are. Because I've attended quite a number of you know talks or conferences, panel sessions where people talk about the issues for 55 minutes, and then the remaining 5 minutes we talk about the solutions. um, I think I think we just need to find ways to fill those gaps.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, we notice that there isn't as much data on young women between 16 and the ages of 16 and 25. Come up with a solution for that. How can we bridge that gap? That should now be the next question. I think that should be the angle that Africans should be able to take when it comes to AI. And then we would now make things easier in terms of personalization, data personalization, um, user experience, personalizing user experience, and things like that. Just so that, just because of the fact that we've now focused more on the solutions rather than the problems, we're
Yeah.
able to address those things and close the gaps faster. That's what I think.
Yeah. Um, so our listeners, if you have any question, just write it in the chat and I will be able to read it out. I think most of the chats or the comments I'm seeing here are just acknowledgements. All right. I can't see any question again. Okay, so back to you, Miss Naomi. When it comes to AI and peace, like your field, how has it evolved? And what are some of the things we don't know that we are supposed to be aware of?
I think when it comes to peace and more so security in the African context, there's a lot of there's much that has progressed. But I will not put it in comparison with maybe global North countries. Um I'll just put it in purely African context. I think that there's so much progress, and this progress has been more of a reactive progress when it comes to AI and security. In terms of the militia groups are way advanced, so okay, the militaries need to push their limit. Okay, the military guys, if a plane is pulled down by a militia group, then what else can we do as a country, as a military or security sector? So I feel there's so much investment also secretly from the West into specific countries to develop AI towards security, but it's more so into conflict than peace. So there's more investment into AI and war more than the solution. The way uh, my sister Kunel is saying that, I hope I pronounce your name well. Uh, there's the 5 minutes quote unquote of solution is what is happening. We have more attention on security and wars than the solutions themselves. So AI has been key in protection of countries, but the aftermath when it comes to maybe humanitarian sector, the refugee camps, supporting the marginalized communities, the displaced, and other things has been slow, way slow and way down, even in terms of innovations. In Kenya, for instance, after post-violence elections in 2007, 2008, we had major innovations that came up. Like when you go to the Google, you can look for something called Ushindi. It's a platform where where all these issues were collected, social media and all this hate speech and other things, data is able to be collected and sieved and maybe see where the triggers are coming from and hotspots and so forth. And also crimes in the cities and so forth. But when you look at African continent and the way wars are in North Africa, in North Uganda, in DRC, uh, parts of Kenya, in Somalia, where things like went south, and other places, uh, solutions have not been created. No solutions per se have been created. But of course, the military has advanced in terms of war and protection, but not solution way forward. So that's where we are at. But when we look at AU and what has been done, like Vanessa has been saying, the framework and so forth, and look at states like Kigali, Rwanda, not Kigali, Rwanda, uh, they are more open when it comes to Rwanda is very open when it comes to AI and the development of African context. And we are seeing the major conferences, AI revolution
Mm,
conferences happening
mm,
quite well, fintech and so forth. Also Nigeria, the same, and Ghana. I feel that every other country should follow that step. Even if we are talking about fintech, which is quite big in the two countries, in Kenya and Nigeria, we should talk about peace and conflict because that is what is ailing Africa, seriously ailing Africa, but more so from the political and structural and governance perspectives. But we should be careful again uh, in terms of ethics and policies that we put because the same if right now we don't have these particular structures, AI structures, and we are in conflict with ourselves in terms of political structures, how we govern our countries. What about when these tools get to these hands that still do not have tools to use for evil? So those are still very big questions that we ask ourselves. Will peace prevail if we have these tools? So
yeah,
what can we do first before they get into our hands? We need
yeah,
to be also very strict, but also balance that will not be too restrictive to create innovations. That's
yeah.
my stance. Yeah.
I think we have to be proactive before people weaponize AI against us so that we don't become reactive. Because it looks like in the African context, most of the things we do, we only respond reactively, but we don't have proactive measures. Okay, so let me read a comment here. Looking forward to seeing it localized AI bring intelligence to every African, like how smartphones provide accessibility to the internet. All the uneducated, illiterate can now be elevated by having access to computing in their natural language. African kids will build amazing. Okay. LinkedIn user, thanks for the answer. And also a question, there seems to be a growing digital divide. How do we address this too? Okay, so listeners and viewers, we are wrapping up. So our guest, they will just take one of the questions and just give us a summary. So Tolu, starting from you, he or she is asking that there is a digital divide. How do we address this too?
So I would say that in terms of like developing skills, how what new tools you need to be learning, how exactly do we need to innovate and take these skills and then use that to innovate the solutions.
Yeah.
Right. As much as we're thinking of solutions, we also need the skills to develop these things. So that's one way we can close that gap a little bit or close the digital divide and all of that. I would also say that in terms of like um, policy and governance, we've talked about this again and again and again. The kind of policies that are being passed, the kind of things that are being brought up in, for example, like our Senate houses and things like that, they need to cater more towards the things that are required for to create a more thriving environment for artificial intelligence. Like I mentioned before, once again, AI is a tool to augment. It's not
not
replacing.
not to replace.
Yes, of course. It's a tool to augment, not replace. So, being able to set out policies and governance that policies that would make sure to keep, like Naomi said, make sure to not to keep them strict, but also not over regulating, right? But also not over regulating and missing the entire point of having the tool to actually improve and develop.
Mm,
Yes, of course. Those are the two major things I'm going to say.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I really can't
What's your
think of
last advice to AI users?
final words. AI is a tool to augment,
Wait. Not to replace.
not to replace. I would say that um, if, instead of seeing it as instead of seeing this entire discussion as something that makes you feel like, oh my God, Africa is backwards. Oh my God,
Mm,
we're not where we want to be. I think we should be more focused on, like I said, the solutions. How can we move forward? These are business opportunities. These are um, things that people in maybe investors would hear about and would be happy to put money into because they know that it's
mm,
going to be results. So I think what I would leave everyone to think about is how exactly can I personally close that gap? What exactly can I do to just, even if it's by an inch, close that gap just a little
mm.
bit, and just make sure that um, we're doing something in the right direction. It doesn't have to be a big push. It just has to be a step in the right direction. AI is a tool to augment, not to replace you.
Yes. I think
Yes,
if
so that's my
there's one word you have to take from Tolu today, AI is to augment, not to replace.
It's not replacing you.
Okay,
I
thank
couldn't
you
wait
so
to say
much,
that.
Tolu. It's been nice hosting you. Okay, now Vanessa, we know we have a lot of entrepreneurs coming up, and most of them would like to input this AI model like chatbots and co into their business model. What are some of the things do you think they have to make right at the beginning of the design, everything, before they also go overboard?
Yeah. I think the first things, like Lou has been saying, AI is your friend. Don't be afraid to use it. You definitely should be looking at using a tool that can make your processes more efficient. But like Shalom is bringing out, you should do it in the right way. So, like Tolu said, it's to augment your practice, it's to enhance your business. Not supposed to do your job completely. It's not supposed to replace you. Like lots of chatter about that, but when you think about it, this has happened with every sort of big innovation or like disruptive technology that we get. I mean, it's a point in time practice. And people thought that farmers would never have to work again, as long as the technology comes in. But what she saw was that the farmers had to upskill, and they went into things like learning better automation techniques, packaging and manufacturing. Same thing with Google Maps when it came around. It's a tool that you use to augment your work and your practice. That gave rise to opportunities like Uber, all the delivery services now that you can use. So it will things will change. So you need to understand how you can use it to change your business and not get left behind. That's another thing I'll say. You will always adapt. Make sure that you are adapting when you are incorporating it into your business. Do not be over reliant. AI makes mistakes. It's a machine, it's a computer program. It can glitch. So don't say it's effective, but don't just like put the system in charge, wash your hands off it, put certain human mechanisms, checks and balances in place to make sure that you're not caught wanting. Because if anything in your AI system goes wrong with your product, that end user is still coming to you, the company, and the shareholders of the company, and all that, all of you who own the company. You are the people who are going to be held responsible, the directors, everything, if you have to pay out. So that's another thing to to keep in mind if you are a business. And I also want to give the comfort that even though we don't have an overarching legislation in place, like any hardcore equivalent of like the EU AI Act in Africa, there are also existing laws that can be interpreted to solve issues. So if you have a cyber attack, we still have like cybersecurity laws. We have laws for fraud, we have laws for infringement, we have laws for when there's a breach of contract, right? So we already have mechanisms that will protect you from the very big issues. So you shouldn't be too afraid of incorporating AI into your business. And the last thing I always say is seek legal advice, right? So as a business, especially who is incorporating artificial intelligence, you take on a little bit more responsibility, right? If you're using a system that has been pre-trained, right, you want to make sure that they had rights to their data so that you are not caught in some infringement battle. Or even if you don't have a proper view of what their data might look like, you want to make sure that your contracts with them has enough like indemnities and limitations of liability to ensure that none of that liability is passed along to you. So always involve your legal advisors when you're entering into contracts, when you're purchasing these systems, when you're getting a service provider. And then on your end, when you're offering it to the end customer of your product, which uses these AI systems, you want to make sure your terms and conditions are also airtight, right? You need to make sure you're getting their consent to use their information if you're collecting information from them. Make sure consent, even though we don't have any laws, strict laws in place at this point, consent is always a great defense to have to any sort of liability. If you can just say, "Oh, I told them that this was what I was going to use it for. I told them that if they tick this box, if they sign, or if they use the product, I will be using their information and for this, and that." So as long as someone has that in their terms and you sign it, there's really no sort of liability or legal issue there. So for you offering to customers, you also want to make sure you have those correct clauses, consent clauses, disclosure clauses in place so that you can protect yourself from liability. So yes, please speak to your lawyers. Don't wait for the problems to pop up first.
Okay, so your last words.
Yeah, that's it for me. Please get in touch with myself or any other lawyers that are around you. Don't wait for the problems to pop up.
Mm.
Um, AI is your friend. Don't be afraid of it. It won't replace you. The only people who will be replaced by AI are the people who didn't use AI. So I'll leave
Oh,
you.
really? That's another punchline. The only people who will be replaced by AI are those who don't use AI. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. Okay, Naomi, your last words concerning research and AI.
Um, so just in a nutshell, if the whole world by 2030, around 800 million jobs will be replaced. Workforce will change, will shift. And more so, as Vanessa has said, it will not be like more so machines, but replacement by those that know how to use AI. So people should not be afraid, even in academia. There's a lot of fear in academia in terms of fake knowledge that is out
Yeah.
there. So much knowledge generated by AI and pushed by AI, even papers, publication of papers, and even teaching in academia. More of these courses we are doing online, where you log in, pay $10. It's most of them may be AI generated, but we should not be afraid, because the way Kunle said, I hope I pronounce well, I still apologize, that it's very key to understand that all these things do not replace humanity per se. The intellect of humanity is far beyond reach of AI. It is us that will train AI. So it's far beyond, far beyond. We cannot, AI cannot harness all the knowledge that a human being, and not even one, all the human beings that do exist on Earth. So it's irreplaceable. Humans are irreplaceable when it comes to knowledge. We are the pioneers. We are the idea givers. So in AI research and AI, what I would say to people in academia, to the students, and especially right now where people in academia and educators have a strong problem where you don't know where the assignment is coming from. Is it coming from a machine or from the students' head? So I would encourage people to just use your your God-given capacity or your brain. Just use what you have. That is what will change the world. It's not what already exists. Because what exists cannot change the world. It is a new, freshness of knowledge and idea that you bring into the table that will make a difference in academia, in the research. And also, it's good that you use AI in research. It will make you better. It will save your time. It will save your headache in terms maybe when you're doing visualization and other things. It will make you sharper and you use less time. But let ideas come from humans, from your. That is what will change the world, not what exists. What existed has not changed even now. So you need to give the solution to the world from where you stand from. That's my punchline.
Yeah. Thank you so much. What has already existed will not change the world. It's the new ideas that will change the world. So humans should try to think so that we can ideate enough, brainstorm enough. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us. Naomi Kulungu, she's a researcher and a lecturer in Kenya. Then Vanessa Akwete is a lawyer. She is so she said, especially you, the entrepreneurs, and you want to you want to input AI into your business model, try and get a lawyer at the beginning so that people will not start taking you to court before you start looking for lawyer. I think when they take you to court before you look for a lawyer, the money is more than
Absolutely right.
yes, the money is more than when you consult. So try and consult. Let's try to use professional services for our work so that we can have a good input and good result. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us. We are very grateful to all of you who have been online all this while. I can only read names from the chat box. David Fong. I have a lot of Davids here. Maware. There are a lot of names here that I cannot be mentioned. Thank you all for joining us. To some of you that I cannot mention your name, Maureen, Kennedy, Jikta, David Kuru, Collins, Dauda. Thank you all for joining us. And watch this space. Please follow our speakers. Follow their content. They are always writing good content that can actually educate you. Thank you all. And I wish everyone the best of the week. Bye.
And thank you, Shalom. Thank you for hosting.
Thank you. Bye.